Hello and welcome back to Minecraft as Gaeilge. I looked it up. It is Tine. I believe I'm saying that right. In the dictionary, it's got the little upside down E for the pronunciation. So that apparently means like about, I guess. I wish they gave more examples of those pronunciations for those phonetic letters. But yeah. That would be it. So it looks like Tine. It's a little weird because I believe it would be Tine na Fi, Tine na Fear, or Fear. No, Fear na Tine. Why didn't I look that up? I don't know. Anyway, we are back here. Go Minecraft. Welcome to Minecraft. So I was going to film another episode right after the one I just filmed, and you know how I mentioned there was thunder off in the distance? Yeah. I certainly did lose power. So I don't know what time that was. That might have been about 9 p.m. or something like that, and some sign up for you trees. Crown is a tree, by the way. Crown. Crann. Yeah, and I didn't get power back until about 3 or 3:30 in the morning. Because like an idiot, I went to bed and I was like, oh, let me leave all the light switches up. That way I know when the power comes back on. Silly idea. There was... waking up, I was... the lights coming on, I'm like, why did I do that? That was stupid. I almost hated that the power came back on at that point. So yeah, it was out for about a good couple hours. I had a mini fridge that leaked. I'll say it was about it. I know how exciting that must sound. Yeah, no, I think the food was okay. So, I don't think I've even had anything in the freezer since. But that should be fine. Because that's a good, at least 6 hours or so, I guess. Yeah, it's, raining slightly, I guess. I didn't realize it was going to rain today. I didn't check the forecast. So I kind of didn't... I was going to cut the grass today, and I didn't. I was waiting. I was like, I'll do it later. And then it's like, oh, the clouds look dark. So, not a very productive day for me. But then I remembered, oh yeah, I don't have a Minecraft video this week. The Shockton. There we go, see? I'm trying, one of the other things is, you know, I've realized I haven't been putting too many Irish words, in the episode, so I'm trying to fix that. Shockton is weak. And a good way to remember that is shocked is the word for 7. S-E-A-C-H-T. So, yeah, I was like, you know what, maybe now's a good time. Because it doesn't seem like it's going to be a big storm like we've been having. But I was like, let me just try and sneak an episode in if I can, because I really don't want to have to go a week without an episode. Came close. I posted one on Tuesday when I meant to post it on Monday, but yeah, that was a little rough. Oh, no one's watching anyway, so yep. Yeah, so I don't really know what to talk about in these episodes. You know, I was kind of hoping to have viewers ask questions and whatnot, and you know, look up. You know, maybe I'll look up more than one word. I feel like that's kind of a good exercise too. Is in your daily life, find something. Find something that you feel like, yeah, you know, I talk about that a lot. And then look up what the equivalent is in Irish, because one of the ideas I had was to, you know what, I think I'll leave that tree. I think I'll leave that big tree. yeah, well, I watched a video a long time ago, and I feel like most of it was bullshit. But it says how things in life, actually, I don't know if the video is bullshit or, because I think it was done by somebody I actually really like to watch, and they're usually pretty good. But it was, talking about the 80% 20% rule. So, like, that most of life occurs in 80% and 20% equivalents. And I was like, I don't buy that at all. Because I thought, well, I can think of 100 things that don't fall into that category. So, but one of them was languages. And maybe for languages, I kind of buy this, right? Because there's going to be certain things you talk about on a daily basis in your native language, that you obviously talk about that frequently because it's a daily basis. So the video is like, well, that's 20% of the words in your language. Now, again, I don't know how accurate that is, but in a way, it kind of makes sense, right? So, if you're a grown-up, one of the things is, one of the polite, conversations you always have is about the weather, so at least once a day you're probably talking about the weather, right? So one of the things, if you're looking to learn a new language, is probably look up all the terms for weather, right? It's, every now and then you hear something silly, like I heard Eskimos have 20 words for for snow, right? It seems kind of outrageous, right? But then, if you grew up in the northeastern United States like I did, obviously we have snow, we have sleet, you know. And even then we kind of, we might describe them differently. It's a little bit more slick, or something like that, or the snow is very fine and grainy like sugar. And you talk to somebody from the Northeast and they totally get that. If maybe you talk to somebody from Texas and you say, yeah, well, this week's snow was fine and grainy like sugar, and then last week's was very wet and heavy, they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Isn't snow all the same? What's this bullshit about snowflakes being all the same? Or no, snowflakes all different, right? So, you'd almost believe that Eskimos have 20 different words for snow or whatever it is, Anyways, but, so if you were to learn... What do Eskimos speak Eskimo? If you were to learn Eskimo as a language, you'd probably want to learn all 20 words for snow, because it would probably come up in conversation with an Eskimo. After all, that's why you're learning the Eskimo language. Maybe. I don't know. That's kind of the funny thing for me is, like, yeah, I don't really have anybody to speak to in Irish, so why am I learning the Irish language? And that kind of often is it's a question I get fairly often when I tell people is, yeah, I've been learning Irish for a while, and they'll go, why? Because I obviously, rings with them that, there's no real application for it. And that's just the point, right? So, like, if I chose to not learn Irish because nobody speaks Irish, then who else is going to learn Irish, right? So, yeah, I'm kind of screwed, but, if I learn Irish and somebody sees that and goes, oh, well, maybe I'll learn Irish because Joe learned Irish. I don't really expect anybody in my life to do that, But, if it so happens that I encounter somebody who also learned Irish, then we have, something to talk about. And, so basically the way I see it is, if I learn Irish, it's just one more person learning Irish that wasn't learning Irish. And in a way, it's more than just one more person learning Irish, right? Because if you have 10 people and one of them decides not to do something and another person decides not to do something because the other person decided not to do it, then, then, pretty soon the whole group doesn't do it, But I'm sure, I mean, it happens, right? You're with a group of friends, and maybe you've been drifting apart or something, but one of you decides not to join in on a group activity, and then the next group activity comes around, one of the other group members decides not to, and then next thing you know, in a couple of years, you guys have all found different friends. Happens, but the way I see it is the same kind of holds true for language, right? So if Irish falls into this pit where, well, why should I learn it? Nobody I know speaks it. Then that's one person not learning it, right? And had they learned it, they'd encounter somebody who maybe learned a little bit. And if they had that encounter, then the person who learned a little bit would be like, oh, maybe I should learn a little bit more. And then now you have two people speaking Irish, whereas had that first person not learned it at all, decided not to because nobody knows it, then you're looking at really two people who didn't learn Irish because that later encounter never fostered any desire to speak the language in the other person. And maybe it spreads like wildfire. Like wild Tina. I felt like, oh my god, this is like a big light bulb here, right? I was doing the whole fire thing as a metaphor, and like I could have passed that off like I planned it, and then I screwed it up at the end. I actually didn't plan it. It just kind of occurred to me as I was watching the fire. So basically, what I would hope is that, I want to be the person that, I don't want to say starts a wildfire, but, I want to be that spark that might cause others to try to learn Irish. Whereas I don't want to be a bucket of water and, put out somebody's desire to learn Irish because I never did it. You don't want to be a wet blanket. So, that's kind of really, like, my hope here is that somebody stumbles on this channel and decides, yeah, I'm going to learn Irish. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It doesn't... I don't want to say it's not practical, right? Because of course it's... I mean, anything you learn can be practical, right? It just is if you get the opportunity to use it. I mean, learning CPR is a practical skill, but hopefully you never have to use it. Not that I should really compare learning Irish to learning CPR, but I mean, you kind of get the point, right? It's if nobody learns it, it goes away. That's really the danger I'm kind of talking about, And the good news is that, despite a lot of what's happening to Irish, how it's being taught in the schools, at least from what I hear in the news, so granted that's kind of the news, right? It's not even that it's thriving or dying, but you see stuff like I mentioned a couple episodes ago. T.G. Lurgan, which is a bunch of teenagers who translate pop songs into... It's a camp, I guess, that they do, and they translate a bunch of pop songs into Irish. It's fantastic to see kids, take to the language like that, and to keep it alive, you know. So it's very inspiring too, in a way. Ah, crap. You know, I always run out of those, and I mean to mend them so that I get a little bit extra out of them. But then I get distracted and never realize I'm low. Anyway. That's my rant. So, oh look, an ocelot. So I know this episode's kind of boring. I do have a funny little tidbit. So after, before I was going to film that second episode last time, I was like, oh, let me at least run off over there by the iron farm and sit there. And I did that, and of course, like I said, the power went out. So it was a couple days before I played Minecraft again. Or at least, you know, sat down. So I'd open it up and I let it go AFK for a while. And I came back and I realized that, so they added a new mob that's strictly for the desert, and it's basically like a slightly larger zombie, and it's, for all I can tell, it seems to be pretty worthless. The only thing is they don't burn in the sunlight. So the next thing I know, it's like Wednesday last week or something, and you know, I go on AFK for a couple days, and the entire iron farm was surrounded by these new zombies. Husks, they're called, I think. So the whole place is surrounded by husks, and I didn't have any arrows on me. I was like, ah, crap. I think I managed to find like a couple arrows on the out. There's a chest that's sitting outside of the farm. I was able to get to it and save myself, but it's like, really, god damn it. So that is a problem, because I think it takes away from. It might take away from the spawn rate of the iron golems, so I may have to move that farm, which sucks. Anyway, I've run out of things to talk about. I should have made a list. How's everybody's summer going? You're Saura. Saura. Summer. Should I end the episode? Only a couple more minutes. There's something I can talk about, right? Something? Anything? Maybe I'll talk about the game I decided to build here. I should just build it and play it, because really, like, if I try and design this park, I'm gonna lose my mind and give up on it. You know? I'll build the park around the game, but I'm not gonna try and build a park and then build the game. So I kind of got this idea. It's similar to an idea I saw in another video from one of those Irish Gaelic guys. And I thought he was going to go one way with it, and then he went another way with it, and I was honestly a little disappointed. So I was like, I can do better with that. And I came up with one idea, and then that led to another idea. I'm like, oh, these are cool. So the first idea is going to be that it'll kind of be like bingo in a way, and actually both ideas are kind of like bingo. It just depends on which idea you'd rather play. And the idea is going to be that well, the first idea is that you have a board of such. Let's say it's 5 by 5, so 25 squares. And you put all different colors down. And I'm thinking actually maybe bigger, because it may be kind of cool to be a bigger game board. I can make different sizes. It doesn't really matter. It's my server. I can do whatever I want. We'll find out what works. Of course, I still need people to play the game with me. So the idea will be that, you know, you have a big board of wool underneath you, and you, when the color is called, you break the appropriate colored wool, and then the last person sort of who hasn't fallen through wins. And then the other idea is kind of more like classic bingo. You have, you know, wool on the floor, and then you just kind of place like an armor stand or something, or a sign on the color that's called, and then the first person to have a row, column, or diagonal of 5 wins. So, cool. We are at sunset, and that does it for this boring episode. I'll try and film more next week. I'm not gonna film another one today. But, thank you for watching. Go Red Milamaga. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yehewa.